the vastness of space, conflict ignited not from a desire for war, but from an aversion to defeat. Commander Joran stood at the console, his pale fingers trembling as he tapped nervously. His breath came in shallow gasps, and his mind raced with the weight of the situation. The Thalaxian fleet, once revered for its commitment to peace and diplomacy, now faced imminent destruction. On the view screen, the Korthak fleet loomed, their ships dark and menacing, moving closer like serpents in the void. All attempts at negotiation had failed, and no technological advances had deterred them. His people, known for their intellect and harmonious ideals, were now confronted with a reality that shattered everything they believed in. "Open the channel," Joran ordered, his voice unexpectedly sharp. He surprised himself with the urgency that laced his tone. "Channel open," replied a Thalaxian officer, his voice trembling. This was a race that had existed for centuries without resorting to violence, yet desperation clawed at their resolve. Joran cleared his throat and faced the human fleet stationed a few systems away. He knew the humans were fierce, brutal warriors, capable of acts he had only read about in history. "This is Commander Joran of the Thalaxian High Council. We are under attack. The Korthak fleet will reach us in 48 hours, he reported, hesitating slightly before adding, "We need your help." Silence stretched between them, the weight of their differing cultures palpable. Finally, a deep, gravelly voice broke through the static. "Captain Gray here." "Thalaxian, huh? Thought you lot were pacifists." He paused, a judgment hanging in the air. "Well, we're not far. We'll be there in 36 hours. Hold tight." The screen blinked off, leaving Joran staring at the cold void of space, a stark reminder of the encroaching threat. The Korthak ships advanced relentlessly, their dark silhouettes drawing nearer. Turning to his officers, Joran steeled himself. "They're coming." 36 hours later, the human fleet arrived like a swarm of angry hornets. Their flagship, the Valkyrie, stood out, a formidable vessel that radiated power and intimidation. When Captain Gray disembarked, Joran's unease only deepened. The captain was tall, with cold eyes and weathered skin, dressed in black combat gear that spoke of his experiences in battle, devoid of any insignia. "They're advancing," Joran muttered, attempting to regain his composure. 48 hours, Gray interrupted, glancing at his wrist-mounted holomap. "Make that 12. Joran's heart sank. 12. "But the Korthak fleet is faster than you thought," Gray snapped, stepping toward the central tactical display. "Your sensors need an upgrade. They'll be on you in half the time." Joran realized with dread that the Thalaxians had underestimated the Korthak at every turn, relying too heavily on technology rather than instinct. But the humans understood war in a way the Thalaxians did not. "Are we setting up defenses?" Gray asked, turning to his crew. "Lock down your capital. You're not ready for a fight, but you can learn quickly enough." His gaze fixed on Joran. "We'll teach you how to survive." Joran's hands shook as he fired the training rifle for the 5th time, the recoil rattling through his arms. Sergeant Malik, a grizzled veteran with a permanent scowl, paced behind him, barking instructions. "Keep your grip firm. Don't flinch." Despite his best efforts, Joran flinched at the recoil. He had never held a weapon before, never envisioned a life defined by survival rather than intellect. Around him, other Thalaxians struggled with the same drills. They were scientists, engineers, philosophers, far from soldiers. But the humans cared little for their past, they needed fighters. "Your enemy doesn't care about your philosophy," Malik boomed. "They don't care about your peace treaties. You either shoot them, or they kill you. It's that simple." Joran's breath came raggedly as he reset the rifle and took aim again. This time, his shot was closer to the target, eliciting a nod from Malik, though the sergeant offered no praise. The humans were harsh, but they were effective. In just a few hours, the Thalaxians had transformed from frightened pacifists into something resembling a fighting force. Captain Gray watched from the command deck, exchanging glances with his second-in-command, Lieutenant Archer. "They're slow, but they'll get there," Archer remarked, arms folded. "They don't have a choice," Gray replied flatly, turning back to the tactical display. The court hack were closing in, too close for comfort. "We can't win this alone. Our fleet is good, but we're outnumbered 2-1. Joran stepped closer, sweat dripping from his brow after hours of drills. "What's the plan?" he panted. Gray finally looked at him, his expression serious. "Your planet isn't built for war. No defense is strong enough to repel them, but you have something else," he said, meeting Joran's gaze. "You know your world, they don't. That's our advantage." Joran blinked in realization. "You're suggesting guerrilla tactics?" Gray's lips curled into a grim smile. "Now you're getting it." The skies above the Lax Prime erupted in fire and chaos as the court hack fleet descended. The human ships, fewer in number but faster, struck hard and vanished before the court hack could react. But the real fight unfolded on the ground. Joran crouched behind a ruined structure, gripping his rifle as explosions rocked the city he once called home. The vibrant world he cherished now lay in ruins, consumed by war. "Hold the line or they break us," Malik shouted, sweat streaking his face as he barked orders. Joran nodded, fear churning in his stomach. Around him, other Thalaxians crouched, weapons trembling in their hands. They were not the same people they had been, fear had transformed them. "Team Alpha, status?" Gray's voice crackled through their earpieces. "We're holding," Malik growled, straining against the pressure. "Barely. Hold a little longer, we're about to make our move." Joran adjusted his position, peering over the rubble as court hack infantry advanced. For a moment, his instincts screamed at him to flee, to abandon this madness. But then, one of the Thalaxians fired, striking an invader. The enemy staggered, if only for a moment, but it was enough. "They can bleed," Joran muttered, determination igniting within him. The Thalaxians opened fire, not with the precision of their human allies, but with the desperate ferocity of a species pushed to the brink. The court hack were stronger and faster, but the humans had taught them something more valuable: survival. In the distance, Gray's plan unfolded. He utilized the terrain, the unfamiliar landscape, to lure the court hack into a trap. While the Thalaxians held the line, Gray's strike teams moved in from the flanks, severing the invaders' supply lines and command structure. The court hack, despite their brute strength, struggled to adapt. A deafening explosion shook the ground, and Joran looked up to see one of the court hack command ships crashing to the surface, its engines burning out. Gray's voice came through the comms again, calm amidst the chaos. "They're breaking. Push them back." Joran felt fear dissipate, replaced by the roar of battle as he charged forward, leading his people. Their voices rose in newfound strength. They might not be human, but in that moment, they fought like them. Each step ignited adrenaline within him. The court hack had underestimated the Thalaxians, expecting them to be weak. Now, these once peaceful scholars faced their foes with newfound ferocity. "Keep pushing," Malik shouted, leading the charge alongside Joran. The Thalaxians moved in unison, firing their weapons with growing confidence. Joran focused on the court hack soldiers ahead, identifying targets as his training kicked in. A court hack warrior fell under a barrage of fire, its armor crumpling like paper. It wasn't a clean victory, but it was a start. With a steadiness he had never felt before, Joran aimed at another target, and this time, his shot found its mark. A cheer erupted among the Thalaxians around him. The sense of camaraderie surged, igniting their spirits. They were no longer a defensive force, they had become warriors, standing shoulder to shoulder with their human allies. Then, the ground shook beneath them as a colossal court hack battle mech crashed through the ruined cityscape. Its metal feet stomped down, drowning out all other sounds. Joran's heart raced as he beheld the beast towering above them, armed with energy cannons crackling with lethal intent. "Focus fire on the legs," Malik shouted, rallying the team back to reality. Joran instinctively fell into formation with his fellow soldiers, aiming their rifles at the mech's legs and opening fire. The combined energy of their weapons fired as one, striking the mech's metallic limbs. Sparks flew, and the court-hack pilot inside the beast roared in frustration, retaliating with devastating cannon fire that shook the very ground beneath them. The Thalaxians, however, pressed on, weaving between debris and seeking cover. In that moment of chaos, Joran caught sight of Gray atop a nearby structure, scanning the battlefield. Joran's heart surged. He needed to get to him. "Cover me," he yelled to Malik before sprinting across the open ground, the cacophony of battle roaring around him. He darted between crumbling walls, dodging debris and gunfire. It felt like an eternity, but finally, he reached the base of the structure. Gray saw him and nodded, signaling for him to climb. Joran scrambled up the wreckage, his heart racing. Once atop the structure, he witnessed the battlefield laid out beneath him. The court-hack were disorganized now, their forces scattering under the relentless fire from the Thalaxians and humans. "We have to finish this," Joran shouted, adrenaline pumping through him. Gray turned to him, a fierce determination in his eyes. "We need to take out their command ship. It's all or nothing." With a rapid pulse of agreement, Joran knew what they had to do. They gathered a handful of Thalaxian and human soldiers, coordinating a final assault. "Stay sharp," Gray commanded as they positioned themselves for the strike. Under the cover of chaos, they advanced toward the command ship, a colossal metal fortress hovering in the distance. Joran led the charge, heart pounding as they navigated the debris-laden streets. The court-hack soldiers seemed to sense their approach and rallied in a desperate attempt to form a defensive line. The two forces clashed, the Thalaxians fueled by desperation and newfound courage. Joran found himself caught up in the frenzy, dodging energy blasts and retaliating with every ounce of training he had received. He had become more than a scholar, he was a soldier, fighting for survival, for his people, and for a future unshackled by oppression. As they neared the command ship, Joran spotted an exposed access hatch. "There," he pointed, adrenaline surging through him. "Go!" Gray barked. They fought their way to the hatch, and Joran kicked it open, leading the charge into the heart of the court-hack ship. Inside, chaos reigned. Court-hack soldiers scrambled to respond, but they were outmatched by the ferocity of their attackers. They stormed through the corridors, encountering fierce resistance. Joran shot one court-hack soldier, barely pausing to acknowledge the life he had taken. It was instinct now, survival over ideology. They moved deeper into the ship, a cacophony of gunfire and shouts echoing around them. "Where's the command center?" Joran shouted over the din. "Up ahead." Gray responded, his eyes blazing with focus. They rounded a corner, finding themselves in a large control room. The court-hack commander stood at the center, surrounded by officers, ready to make their final stand. "Cover the exit," Gray commanded, and the soldiers fanned out, taking positions as they prepared for the final confrontation. The court-hack commander glared at them, eyes filled with rage and disbelief. "How dare you intrude," he bellowed, voice reverberating through the chamber. "Your time is over." Joran shouted back, the weight of his words heavy with meaning. He had never imagined himself saying such things, yet the anger and desperation fueled him. The battle erupted anew, gunfire ringing out as both sides clashed in a desperate struggle for supremacy. Joran fought with everything he had, each shot fired echoing the resolve of the Thalaxian people. They could not allow their world to fall. Finally, amidst the chaos, Joran found an opening. He sprinted toward the court-hack commander, weapon raised. The commander saw him coming and leveled his weapon, but Joran fired first, striking the commander in the chest. The court-hack fell, and in that moment, the tide began to turn. With their leader fallen, the court-hack soldiers hesitated, panic coursing through them. The Thalaxians, emboldened by their victory, surged forward, taking advantage of the chaos. The humans fought with equal fervor, their tactics ruthless and precise. As the last court-hack soldiers fell, Joran stood panting, heart racing, bloodied but alive. He looked around at his comrades, warriors forged in fire. They had survived against all odds, transforming in the crucible of battle. In the aftermath, as the Court-Hack fleet retreated, a profound silence enveloped them. Joran's heart swelled with emotion, the weight of loss mingling with the exhilaration of victory. They had not only fought for their survival but for their identity, a struggle to reclaim their future. Gray approached him, a rare smile breaking through his stern demeanor. "You did good out there, Thalaxian." Joran nodded, still catching his breath. "We did it together." The bond forged in battle transformed the Thalaxians and humans into something new, a coalition of strength, a united force that could face any threat. As they surveyed the damage to their world, Joran felt a flicker of hope. The Court-Hack had underestimated them, but they had survived, and they would rebuild. In the days that followed, as they began to restore their city, Joran realized that peace would never return to the Lax Prime in the same way. They had changed. The scars of battle remained, but they were marks of resilience, of survival. The Thalaxians had learned that there was a strength in unity and the willingness to fight for what was right. In the heart of the rebuilt city, Joran stood alongside Gray, watching the sun rise over a new dawn. The battles they had fought would echo through the ages, but in their hearts, they knew they had forged something stronger than a mere alliance. They had created a legacy of hope, a future where they would never again be victims, but warriors standing side by side.